The first thing is just the different sections. We have our outer ear, which runs all the way through to the tympanum, the middle ear, which is going to be this air-filled cavity in here, and then the inner ear, which you can always pick out of the models, and this is a blow-up of the inner ear. The outer ear is made up of the pinna, which is up here, all the way down to here. The external auditory canal, it's got like 16 million names, so whatever you learned is fine, I'll recognize it. The tympanic membrane, which is the eardrum, and that's it for the outer ear. In the middle ear, this air-filled cavity, I like to go ahead and often pull this one out because it's a lot bigger and easier to see which is connected. You want to be able to recognize the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. It's good just to learn them in order, malleus, incus, stapes. The malleus, and you can see, is the one that's actually physically connected. The incus is next, and then the stapes on all of these models, they go ahead and connect to the inner ear. That's the one that looks like the stirrup. Okay? Let me just check if there's anything else. Oh yes, they also want you to know the auditory tube or the eustachian tube, which is this one that drains into the back of the throat. And then we have our windows. The only place to see them is on this model, I think. This is the round window. So 10 is the round window. The one that the stapes sits over, remember, is the oval window. We don't have a model that has the stapes removed, so there's really no model where we can see it, but I could ask you what, window would be located underneath this bone, and that's the oval window. Okay, then we move to the inner ear. The snail shell, we can put the snail shell back together, is the cochlea. The vestibule is the area where the stapes attach to this expanded portion in the middle. All of this is vestibule, and then these are the semicircular canals. Let me see what else. Vestibule. They want you to be able to find the vestibular cochlear nerve. It is on here, but I think it's better over here. And this is the whole thing once it joins together is the vestibular cochlear nerve. But then they're showing you the difference between the vestibular branch, which is the one coming back towards the vestibule, and the cochlear branch going towards the cochlea, which is nice. They want you to be able to see inside and recognize that the semicircular canal is the framework, that's the bony framework. Inside of that we have fluid, and then inside of that we have ductwork, and that's the semicircular duct, so that's what they're showing you in gray. At the bottom of each one we have the ampulla, right? Y'all learned that's where the hair cells are, that actually when you start moving in space, they move the hair cells, causing us to know whether we're accelerating forward or decelerating in the opposite direction. And then in the vestibule we have the utricle, which is the top one, and the saccule, which is the little bottom one. So the darker gray one is the saccule, and this is the utricle, giving us static equilibrium. Okay. That's it for this one. I put this away. Now we move to this cross-section. So what they've done is they've taken the cochlea, they've taken a little portion of it, and they've just sectioned it. So we're looking at just one little cross-section going in this direction across the cochlea. Okay? So here would be that bone on the outside. And what we're seeing here is this middle section, which represents this portion, the organ of Corti. So this is where we've got the hair cells, this is where we get the function in the ear. It's attached to a basilar membrane. So this 6 or whatever the number is here, this is the basilar membrane down here. On top of that basilar membrane are the hair cells, and they very nicely put hair in them. So the hair cells are the ones with the hair. Then those, remember, they attach up into the tectorial membrane up here. So then in real life, these would actually be embedded into that membrane. This space in here, what are they? They're wanting you to call it the cochlear duct. It's got other names, but they are wanting you to know it as the cochlear duct. It would be filled with endolymph. So this is the endolymph section. This up here is called the vestibular membrane, which I always like to find because that reminds me that this is the scala vestibuli. So the one next to the vestibular membrane is the scala vestibuli. Scala meaning space, vestibuli because it's the one close to the vestibular membrane. The one down here is the scala tympani. I don't know why they chose that name, they just did. me see. I think there's only one. And it's these two sections, by the way, that would be filled with the perilymph. So endolymph in the functional section, perilymph surrounding it. The last thing they want you to be able to find is the spiral ganglion. So you can see that all this information is winding away from the hair cells. They hook up to these huge ganglion in the corti and then are taken back to the nerve. These guys here are the spiral ganglion. Ganglia. And that's it.
So is it this part that's responsible for pitch?
Um,
As it goes around?
What happens is that this basilar membrane changes thickness and width down the whole thing. And so it's exactly which part of it is moving that determines pitch. So I like to say, think of it as like once you unroll it, it's like guitar with a million strings. Which one you plunk determines the pitch. Which one is plucked determines the air that's coming in, what the wave looks like that's coming in.
So the hair into this that goes all the way through.
Yeah, so
it's
this
not
is
actually one of the sections.
No,
it's the
yeah.
membrane itself.
So we wouldn't know what pitch this one would be sensitive to.
Okay.
It depends on where it is in here.
Okay.
So up towards the front, I believe it's higher.
I
And
don't
towards the
remember.
end is
Just
lower, or
all I
one or
have
the other.
is one end is high and one end is
Yeah,
low.
and I can't remember which one either. Obviously, it's very important to me. But yeah, so that's how that works. And then the more hair cells we involve, the louder the sound appears to us. Yeah.